Yeah. Move that fine from there. Move fine. Oh, move fine. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I thank you for this opportunity to contribute to this budget debate of fiscal 2025. As Secretary of the Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development, I am deeply honored to present our fiscal projection for the upcoming year. I wish to thank my family, the staff at the Division of Public Utilities and Rural Development, some of who have been sitting here all day, my beloved resident of Mayston, which I have the privilege to represent. Also, I'd like to thank Assistant Secretary George, Deputy Presiding Officer, who worked along with me for 2.5 years at the division, and handed over to able-bodied Assistant Secretary Kerr for his assistance in fulfilling the mandate of the division. Deputy Presiding Officer, I wish to state that the needs of my constituents and wider Tobago public are at the forefront of my passion for housing, public utilities, and rural development. As an area representative, I share the distress felt by our community and the island as a whole, with 10 recorded murders thus far in 2024. The urgency to address this issue of crime cannot be overstated. This goes to the heartbeat of our society. Deputy Presiding Officer, because of the perpetrators all live somewhere that they call home, our collective mandate therefore must mainstream the goal that all Tobago households and dwellings must be free from violence. As the great civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. once said, we are all connected by the fabric of destiny. What affects one affects all, sick schedule or not. We therefore join the call, Deputy Presiding Officer, for widespread support of the initiatives of the THA to aid in the fight against crime in all forms in Tobago. In search of peace and happiness for the people of Tobago, the TPP will not rest or renounce its responsibility towards all the social and other crime suppression initiatives advocated in this budget by our Chief Secretary, Farley Chavez Augustine. Deputy Presiding Officer, in my budget contribution, I will demonstrate how our fiscal programs and projects, particularly those focusing on social housing, can serve as a crucial tool in combating the rising tide of crime. In fact, our initiatives will be intricately aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These goals, a universal call to action, embody our shared responsibility to end poverty, reduce crime, ensure peace and prosperity for all by 2030 in SDG 1 and 16. They call for universal access to resources, including land and other forms of property, and the building of institutions from the government to civil society and then to the family as the basic institution of the society. In SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institution. In summary, Deputy Presiding Officer, our projects and programs are closely aligned to some of the SDGs after the landmark motion presented by my colleague, Ms. Natisha Charles-Pantin, in our last sitting. The alignment includes Sustainable Goal Development 1, no poverty, through the provision of affordable housing and access to land and financial support will help reduce poverty by ensuring that low-income families have access to secure and affordable housing. The anticipated construction boom will create jobs and stimulate economic activity in keeping the provision of decent work and economic growth in SDG 8. By improving the living conditions of Tobago, we can contribute to reducing crime and fostering a more peaceful society as aligned in SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Overall, we intend to rely on effective partnership between the THA, private sector stakeholders, and the community, demonstrating the power of collaborative efforts in achieving sustainable development through the administration of our affordable housing program, as outlined in SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals. As it relates to the division and its mandate, Deputy Presiding Officer, the Division of Settlement, Public Utilities and Rural Development is tasked with a profound mandate to enhance the standard of living for Tobagonians. This mandate is crafted against the backdrop of some dire global trends. Deputy Presiding Officer, the United Nations estimates that 1 billion people will live in substandard living conditions in slums, as this fixed figure is expected to climb to 2 billion in 30 years. The proliferation of low-quality housing in and on the borders of cities and towns is a feature of all cities worldwide. Trinidad and even Tobago is no exception. Also, Deputy Presiding Officer, at the first of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, no poverty, highlights this plight as by 2030, with the current rate of social protection for the poor and the vulnerable, there will still be 575 million worldwide still living in poverty. This speaks directly to the urgency of the need to accelerate the intervention promoting the human rights approach to public policy formulation. In Tobago, Deputy Presiding Officer, poverty level jumped from 19% in 2005 to 24% in 2014, and this does not account for the economic loss associated with the pandemic, which has exaggerated the level to nearly 32%, or 1 in 3 households. This is the face of the heartless and recalcitrant central government refusing to capitalize the Tobago economy to afford pre-COVID economic stimulus to bring the much-needed relief to Tobago residents. Deputy Presiding Officer, it is the combined effects of poverty, a failed housing market system, and poor living conditions that have placed the rights of home ownership out of the reach of most average Tobagonians. And this is the mission of my division, to alleviate the systemic challenges and make the dream of home ownership and moving out of poverty a reality in Tobago. The affordability crisis in housing, Deputy Presiding Officer, has prompted my division to embark on developing a policy position of affordable housing, which has elements that address the needs of each cohort of individuals who are unable to meet the $23,000 per month average eligibility income to afford a mortgage on the open market. Review of the past performance 2022 to 2024. Reflecting on the past 2 years since our assumption in office, it has become evident that our journey has been marked by both challenges and triumphs. My site visits and ongoing communication with the public have laid bare the dire circumstances faced by countless families, underscoring the urgent need for swift and effective action. The COVID-19 pandemic has further exposed the extent of hardship endured by many, with families languishing in squalor for over 20 years under the previous administration. Such conditions are simply untenable and indeed inhumane. Despite meager funding allocation from central government, our approach has been one of innovation and partnership. We introduced the Social Affordable Housing Program to construct the homes of the most vulnerable, with our first beneficiary being a visually impaired single mother, thus demonstrating the multidimensional nature of housing investment, contributing to reducing inadequacies by empowering and promoting social and economic inclusion of all in keeping with SDG 10. Overall, the development program estimates for the Division of Settlements dictates 33% or just over $30 million to the protection and care for the most vulnerable, which is Pillar 8 of the greatest little island on the planet. Deputy Presiding Officer, collaboration with organizations like Habitat for Humanity, Trinidad and Tobago have enabled us to deliver essential services such as roof repairs to families throughout the island, especially in the rural areas which have been severely neglected. Over the past 2 years, we distributed over $25 million in grants and subsidized through the Home Improvement Program for families to assist in home repairs and improvement habitability. Distribution over 140 parcels of lands across development, including Blemin, Buku, Castara, Colon, and Killigrew. Distributed 5 townhouses in Adventure Housing Development Phase 2. Constructed and distributed 2 houses under the Social Assistance Housing Program, with another 3 in progress at Milford Court, and 5 to be completed before the end of 2024. Approximately 75 families will benefit from over $3 million in roof repairs and retrofitting in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. With this in mind, this administration has officially advocated to the Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Bank to consider the higher cost of living, cost of construction, and lower average income in Tobago to afford a variation on the policy for first-time homeowners in Tobago. The Assembly is hopeful that this will eventually translate into the movement of the $14,000 monthly salary limit as the cutoff for the preferred 2% mortgage to $18,000 per month, which will apply only to first-time homeowners in Tobago. In fiscal 2025, all our programs and projects are set to stimulate economic activity and growth in Tobago. We will continue to seek innovative solutions, including partnership, to deliver. The following programs and projects will be delivered under the following pragmatic themes of fiscal 2024-2025. Affordable housing program. This is against a backdrop of available data pointing to a higher dwelling unit construction rate in Tobago as opposed to Trinidad, despite the higher cost of construction. To support prospective homeowners unable to afford a mortgage on the open market, some graduated support is necessary to alleviate the structural barrier to home ownership. I am delighted to present Deputy Presiding Officer an overview of the Affordable Housing Program, a critical initiative aimed at addressing the housing needs of Tobagonians. Our vision is set to initiate an aggressive home construction trust that promises to ignite a construction boom in Tobago. This surge in construction activity will not only address housing needs, but also significantly contribute to mitigating one of the new rising challenges in our island, crime. Therefore, in fiscal 2024-25, we are proposing an investment of $46,159,104 to deliver the Affordable Housing Program. Social Assistance Housing Program. Deputy Presiding Officer, as I mentioned earlier, we have developed strategic initiatives and partnerships to fulfill delivery. The Social Assistance Housing Program encompasses the Home Project, a collaborative partnership between THA, private sector, and the community. I am pleased to announce that the division has crafted a comprehensive solution to address the pressing issue of housing for the most socially vulnerable groups in Tobago. Upon assuming office 2 years ago, I was inundated with and frankly overwhelmed by the unsafe, undignified, and deplorable condition in which many Tobagonians were forced to live. In response to these challenges, on April 4, 2022, the Chief Secretary, Honorable Fali Chavez, mandated me as Secretary of Housing to develop a program to provide low-cost mortgage financing to prospective homeowners, develop social housing program to improve the delivery of housing services, establish a land for the landless program providing low-cost services, lots for low-income households. I am proud to announce that in fiscal 2025, we will roll out the Home Ownership Made Equal program, a pivotal component of Tobago's economy and social development strategy. The Home Project targets a range of vulnerable groups, including individuals with disabilities, mental or physical challenges, the elderly, single parents, and those living in unsanitary or overcrowded conditions. It also addresses the needs of those affected by domestic conflict or displaced by natural hazards and emergency. Emergency situations requiring immediate intervention includes earthquake, landslide and mudslides, fires, floods, hurricane, thunderstorm, fallen trees, poles, and wire. The Home Initiative aims to assist individuals with a maximum income of $7,500, providing housing solutions ranging from 450,000 TT to 535,000 TT. The total project sum to construct these houses under the Social Assistance Housing Program in fiscal 24-25 is $14,280,000 TT dollars. Home Improvement Program. Deputy Presiding Officer, the Home Improvement Program continues to be the most heavily subscribed program executed under the Settlements Department. The program is a crucial part of our mission to improve the quality of life for homeowners across Tobago. Given the prevailing socioeconomic condition in Tobago, we have undertaken a strategic review of our Home Improvement Grant Program. This review ensures that our social relief programs are effectively meeting the needs of our communities. The various Home Improvement Grant Programs currently offers financial assistance to existing homeowners with disbursement ranging from $15,000 to $50,000. These grants are designated to help residents make essential Deputy Presiding Officer. We're moving on. In fiscal 2025, I give the resolute commitment to align our programs and projects with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. the fiscal priorities of 2025 in the Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development are as follows. To commence the construction and distribution phase of 54 homes in Riceland housing development in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank. I want to pause here, Deputy Presiding Officer, because I heard the minority leader on the other side talking about the Secretary for Infrastructure must partner with the central government to deliver the Kilgreen Road, the Kilgreen Extension? Friendship. Winston Murray. Boulevard. But I want to inform and notify Tobagonians that the Division of Settlements signed an MOU with the Inter-American Development Bank and the Ministry of Housing in Trinidad in 2020 to construct these same 54 homes in Riceland. You know, when we came into office, we had a draw. We selected 125% of the required 54 homes. We had consultation at Mount Pleasant Community Center. We got the feedback. We got everything. We had paid NIPDEC, who was supposed to be project manager, I think $1.1 million for designs. The central government approached the IADB for a loan to do major projects in Trinidad. And one of the criteria, they said, you had to do a project in Tobago too. In the document signed in 2020, the projects that they were identified were Riceland Housing Development and Adelphi in Mason Hall. We had the draw. We had exciting Tobagonians because they said the draw was transparent. It was fair. It's the first time they see it. And me, being new to the job, I was so excited because my passion is to see people uplift themselves. But I noticed that we were not getting information from NIPDEC. One Miss Etienne was the project manager. And I keep telling my Director of Settlements, could you contact NIPDEC to see where we are with this development being started? Tobagonians, I got through some of the chase. Lo and behold, we had a meeting just about 2 months ago, or a month ago, only to learn that the government of Trinidad and Tobago did not access the meager $5 million US that is needed from the IADB because the projected cost of the infrastructure as determined by NIPDEC was over 20 million TT. The government did not access the 5 million to start the infrastructure work at Riceland. This is the same government who are trying to tell my colleague to wait on, to let them come and do the road. So the 54 Tobagonians that was selected 28 months ago today, nothing has started. Nothing has started. Nothing has started in Riceland. And we have to sit down and wait on central government to come and do things in Tobago. Well, as the words of the Prime Minister, are going to move heaven and earth to make sure houses start in Tobago for Tobagonians. I stated in the House here before, the lengthy delays for the Shervan housing project, 96 days by the planning director in Tobago, another 62 days for Adventure. You know, I asked for valuation for Shervan by the Valuation Department of Tobago. Because you know what is the trend is that the central government is giving you the cut or any state agency in Trinidad the property to use as collateral to access funding to do design build finance. It took the valuation department 6 months. On the 17th of January, I asked the administrator to ask the valuation department to do the valuation. They did it, sent it in Trinidad since February. She only responded on the 17th of June. It took us 6 months to get back a valuation report. If this is not a calculated attack on Tobago's development, well, only tell me what is. But we finally got it, and the RFP was already completed at Chauvin, so the special purpose company will enter into conversation or talks or negotiation along with the senior state council with the company that was awarded. Also today, the standstill period for the Adventure Housing Project, which is supposed to yield 120 or 140 units. So a contractor was already selected there, and negotiation will start between the division or the special purpose company and the contractor for the start of this 140 units. We also hope to complete the infrastructure works for 75 parcels of land at Bacalet, although we are still in discussion. If the chief has decided that if we want to do some houses out there, because to tell you the truth, settlements is the smallest division in the THA, but could be the most effective division in the THA. And everything that we have to do, the minority leader keeps saying we keep fettering away $300 million. But everything that we have to achieve in Tobago has to be done with design build finance, contractors' money, somebody else's money, in order to deliver to the people in Tobago. But we have over 8,000 persons on database waiting for homes. And as we speak more about this, you have more and more persons applying for homes. We have completion of infrastructure works and distribution of 35 parcels of lands at Adelphi in Mason Hall. We have 37 parcels of land in Castara still to give out. And that's a development that started since about 2013. The construction of 50 homes under the Social Assistance Housing Program. Tobagonians, I'd like to say to you, because of this shortfall in funding, as my colleagues, Secretary Clark and Secretary James and those before me alluded to, the 140 parcels of land we distributed, the revenue generated from the sale of those parcels will go back to construct houses under the Social Assistance Housing Program for Tobagonians who cannot afford to build homes. We are hoping to intake a revenue of about $13 million from the sale of those 140 parcels of land. In the process, Deputy Presiding Officer, the plans of the division should activate 838 home construction starting this year, accounting for the mobilization of $810 million, or 2.5 times the THA Development Parliamentary Appropriation for fiscal 2024, assuming an average cost of a unit being $800,000. Deputy Presiding Officer, this level of investment in home construction generates a multiplier of 2.0, realizing an economic impact of $1.3 billion. Deputy Presiding Officer, the importance of the housing sector as part of the economic infrastructure of the development process cannot be understated. To this end, the division will continue to promote the desire for home ownership on the top of the strategic priority of the Assembly. That's as far as they gave me to read. Now I'm going to go ad lib. You know, there's a metaphorical statement I would like to tell the minority leader. If you are not offered a seat at the table, be careful, you might be on the menu. It's the first person, because in 2005 when Ashok Jack was the only person who won his seat, I was sitting with him that night in Mariah. Then he realized he was minority leader. He was the face of the party. Brother, you are young. I know you have all kinds of aspiration. You cannot be the only one who won your seat. And the executive of your party you're not sitting nowhere on the executive. So, babe, brother, you may be on the menu. I'm just giving you a heads up. No, you're young. You see, brother, hear what is going on. Next week, Wednesday, God would have blessed me with 58 years on this earth, 48 of which have been in politics. So when I look around the room here, I've been in this game longer than anybody in this room. Oh, Brother Sonny and Secretary James, we were in the same year group. But you know what bemoans me mostly? I said it in my last contribution. We have 7 Tobagonians
sitting in the upper and lower house in Trinidad, and Tobago is suffering and languishing like this. And you know what is painstaking to me? 5 out of the 7 have roots in the north or east of Tobago. You know, like Black Stallion song, like we had to change the words. Tobago had to keep on jamming for Tobago to get a lick or something. But the oppressed has become the oppressor. Because I remember in 1970, Mr. Rowley was in Tobago with his fist in the air, walking from Charlottesville to Scarborough. I could speak about that. The only female arrested in the Black Power movement was my cousin Lynette Balfour. The only female was arrested. But after Mr. Rowley lost his first election in 1981, like he swallowed a bitter pill for Tobago. Because I cannot see you being Prime Minister and knowing that we are 200 years behind and still we have this shortage of funding to develop the land space called Tobago that you love so much. But you see, this is nothing new to the PNM, because Mr. Orville London his favorite phrase was, at this budget time, he was not uncomfortable with the allocation. I have been in this race too long, and I want to say to Tobagonian, God is the provider of everything. I am tired of begging. I'm like Secretary James. Every year we go begging cap in hand. Could somebody really tell me, 62 years of this union, what has Tobago benefited out of it? I'm talking from independence. What have we really benefited from it? Every year we have persons having suffering from brain drain. Children have to leave to go here, and then we have to go cap in hand. You know, when you do the mid-year review with the budgetary allocation at the start of the fiscal, it's always about 60 billion, 60-something billion. And we are here championing and say, yeah, we get 2.5 billion. As Secretary James says, if you have to define Tobago and your goodly colleague for Tobago West, she's on television talking about, we have to define Tobago by water space and air space as we have to do in Trinidad. Why don't we approach that? Why don't we do it? It is not in the benefit of people in Trinidad or PNM in Trinidad to do it, as my colleagues rightfully said. Well, somebody had to do it, but we cannot continue like this. As Secretary James said, where do you see your children or grandchildren 20 years down the road? Where would they be? Still running cap in hand and begging for 4.03% of our budget? I could remember in 1982, Mr. Robinson was on the steps of the post office, if you all remember when post office was in Scarborough, and showing us the maps where the oil and gas reserves were located in Tobago. I will never forget that Friday night. And I know that everybody knew where the oil and gas is. But I always try to say to Tobagonian, it has to be some reason on this earth that this little piece of island was fought for 33 times. Nobody is fighting for a little piece of place for 33 times. Nobody. How much time does Trinidad fought for? Look at the difference in landmass. The only person who don't know what we worth is Tobagonians.
Member, you have 2 remaining minutes of speaking time.
Thank you. But you know, the minority leader was quick to jump out and say, I go on with $50,000. Like he's trying to put me up according to them young people. I go on and trip with $50,000. I heard her say that. But when I go visiting countries, I reach with the heads of states. I'm not the chief secretary, but I sit with prime ministers when I leave here. Sit with Ralph Gonsalves when I was in St. Vincent. I sit with Andrew Holness. And you know, strange enough, brothers and sisters, I knew the hotel talk was going to come up. Because on my courtesy call with Ralph Gonsalves, he was like, me have to talk to Rowley. He can't be so pig-headed, man. Want to hire Sanders deal? Because they gave me a personal tour of Sanders in St. Vincent. But the deal that they worked out in St. Vincent for the people of St. Vincent is, the deal in Tobago is pale in comparison to what they did. Pale in comparison. You know what Sanders did? Sanders purchased an existing hotel. Someone who was bankrupt and freed and went back to England. They purchased it
and renovated it. Now they're building bungalows out in the sea. It is nestled between the mountains. It's beautiful. But we want to buy, we want to give them the land, 400 acres. We want to build it for $1 billion and give them 40 years concession. That wouldn't work, my brother. But one day, we will understand the power that we have. My brothers and sisters, my colleagues, let me just look at a quote. My wife gave me a quote this morning before I left home. And I would like to say to my good friends on the other side, who thinking that money, 2.5 billion is a big thing. Hear what the Bible says, eh? A feast is made for laughter, and wine make it merry, but money answereth all things. Ecclesiastic 10, 19, 20.
Member, your speaking time has expired.
Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I rise to request that an additional 10 minutes of speaking time be granted to the member to finish his very engaging presentation.
Members, the question is that 10 minutes of additional speaking time be allowed to the member. All in favor say aye. Aye. All, any against? Member, you may continue your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. A feast is made for laughter, and wine make it merry, but money answereth all things. Because of the economic global situation, my brothers and sisters, no matter what side of the divide we are on, $2.5 billion cannot suffice in the development of our island. We are talking about increasing human capital. Make the noise. You know, mid-year review, only an independent senator spoke up for Tobago. No Tobago. One independent, one of the 7 persons in Tobago, so none of the say, well, Quitos, let me pull aside. In fact, all the say Quitos. We need to have a discussion because this is woefully inadequate for Tobago. But you know, when you're on the front Tobago, let me go quickly before my 10 minutes go. You know, they gave us $3 million in our budgetary allocation for this fiscal for housing in Tobago. But I'm going to read some figures for you. Cora Housing Development, 110 units, $117 million. Citrus Close Development, 191 units, $171 million. 600 free starter houses in 26 villages in Trinidad, $100 million. You know to the tune of how much? $388 million. And you gave the Tobago House of Assembly $3 million. $3 million they gave us. Wait, I'm coming to that. There's a high-rise car park in South, $160 million. The Emperor Valley Zoo, $57 million. Udicott headquarters, $57 million. And fiscal 24, 25, 23, 24, they gave Udicott $1.5 billion for 3 different sectors to pay off from old contractors and to build their new headquarters. What are we really saying? What are we really providing for our future generation? Me no ball you. I go pack me Georgie Bungle and run. No, that is unacceptable. We also plan to increase the roof repair program with Habitat for Humanity, which is doing wonderful work. We had some discussion yesterday, Chief Secretary, on things that we're hoping that they have a policy, brothers and sisters, and the wider Tobago, that they do the project management of home construction, whether it's small, 30 by 30, 30 by 20, and persons in Trinidad and other Caribbean regions pay as low as $800 a month mortgage payment. Yeah, they could enforce the fact that if you don't pay, they could come and seize your property, whatever. But we have to do something. We have to do something out of the box. Because $3 million with today's construction cost could only build like about 5 homes. We have to seek the help. You know, when in St. Lucia, you know what I learned? St. Vincent, sorry? That the reason why we cannot access funding is because Trinidad and Tobago is, on the world index market, is rated as a high middle income. So we cannot access no funding. In St. Vincent, the public servants, through the St. Vincent Development Bank, is given 100% financing for the entirety of their loan at 2% interest. So it gives the public servant that impetus, that drive to work, because they are taken care of. We are left to the wolves, these commercial banks who are ripping us off and raping us and taking everything away from us at 12 and 14%. But that is St. Vincent as a caring government. Deputy Presiding Officer, going to my electoral district, I would like to thank my colleague and his division, Secretary James, for the 6 steps, as the representative for Roxborough Argyle said, at King Peter Bay Hill. But in truth and in fact, it was 192 steps. And according to the Jamaicans, when mongoose used to run, Cara drive there now. Because all the senior citizens who live on the hill don't have to trek that 192 steps to come down or to go back. I lost a constituent because she was living to the very end of that street and was sick. And when her husband put her in the wheelbarrow at the top of the 192 steps, because the ambulance had to stay to the bottom, she died in the wheelbarrow. But you know what's happening now? Because of Secretary James and Secretary Sampson at the time, now Secretary Baines, ambulance could reach right up there now, quickly. Division of Infrastructure partially upgraded 7 roads thus far in our constituency. You know, we don't have material, so all we could do is bring little relief to some of the constituents. Streetlights in places that never had streetlights, we are undertaking that. I'm sorry Secretary Pantin isn't here, but one project that we will entertain or undergo this year is the regularization of 82 persons living on the Adelphi estate. Because we have persons living on the Adelphi estate that have no claim. Nowadays, you could use state lands as security to go to the bank and get mortgage, but yet we are denying persons in Tobago that. I have secretly been doing some work on the Adelphi estate, south I call it. That is when you're coming into Mason Hall. On the left-hand side, it's 142 acres. We just got back the evaluation report, which took a year. Nevertheless, we have it. It is valued at $30.5 million. I asked the Chief Secretary if he could undertake writing the Parliament to have it acquired for village expansion of Mason Hall. Now, that is in keeping with the vast piece of land or amount of land they acquired for airport expansion. So, it will be at the behest of the Prime Minister, who is from Mason Hall also, Mr. Hislop. Yeah. Well, whoever owns it. But we are asking the Chief Secretary to write the Parliament to acquire it on behalf of the residents of Mason Hall for village expansion, because they have a number of families living on it that could get tenure. We also plan to start the Adelphi housing development this year. I have discussion with Secretary James, the widening of the bridge at the foot of Big River Hill, because you know that bridge, even when you're going to Heritage, those of you who are living on the south and only come up on the north side when it's Heritage, where you have to stop on one car pass and then one car pass back. And so we're hoping that that bridge could be widened, Secretary James. Secretary Clark and I had consultation with the Village Council and all interested group in Moriah on Tuesday, because that recreation ground is one that has so much potential, real potential for international cricket. And we have to meet with the residents sometime soon again to come up with a drawing so that at least we could start building out that recreation ground. I've also had consultation with Secretary Hackett, or we are supposed to have consultation, the Division of Education, about the construction of a tech voc wing at the Mason Hall High School. Because Mason Hall High School does not have a tech voc wing, and we know that some of the children who are not academically inclined could now do some kind of trade while they're in school. And also the construction of play parks in Mason Hall and Moriah. Those are some of my goals that I wish to achieve in 2025. Now, I really like helping people.
I always try, like to say, I am not in politics as a minority leader, like to say, to help themselves. It brings peace and joy and happiness to see that Tobagonians are uplifted. Because, truth be told, before December 6th, I am one Tobagonians, not different from many others, that took a $50,000 loan and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business. And I could go back to do what I love, which is real estate and land development. Tonight, if the chief tells me, you're relieved.
Member, your speaking time has expired.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Deputy Presiding Officer. I will talk with you after.